This week, we cover a movie that had some mixed reviews. For me, I'm doing it solo this week. Dani was sick for recording, so you get to listen to me go on and on about this bad boy. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So why don't we just hop into this, and you can see what I'm talking about. Hey B-Siders, welcome to Bravo for the B-Side. I'm Jim, and this week there is no Dani. The household has been overcome with illness, so Dani and our daughter have been sick. They're on the mend, but not quite well enough for Dani to do the podcast, so it's just going to be me rolling solo this week on a interesting film. I've got some mixed thoughts on this one. That we will get into. Before we get going, let's just bring this out to the front. Reminder, if you're listening and you have your device in your hand, go ahead and hit those stars. Give a rating, give a review, share, subscribe, do all that. Head to our website, www.lordsofmisruleproductions.com, and subscribe through one of the many podcast platform links that we have there. Check out what's going on. You can also listen to the episodes there. Check out our blog and so on. Okay. Oh, that was a big breath. This week, found a film that looked really promising and left me with some mixed reviews. This week, it's Fractured. And there's a lot of movies with the name Fractured. This one is 2016 production. It's a British film. It's directed by Jamie Patterson, written by Christian Hearn and Jamie Patterson, starring Carl Davies, April Pearson, Louisa Litton, Jordan Metcalf, and Calvin A. Dean. There's no rating because it hasn't been released to the public through the MPAA. Budget. This was interesting. I did a lot of digging for this, and what I was able to find is an Indiegogo campaign that was buried deep in the recesses of the web, and this one was for a $65,000 goal, but it closed at $8,500. I couldn't find any additional campaigns, so let's just say they were going for $65,000. Maybe they got it. We can talk about that at the end. The plot logline for this bad boy is when Rebecca and Michael decide to take a weekend getaway and drive into the isolated countryside, they arrive at their cottage unscathed, but Rebecca can't help but feel like someone is watching. Now, the trailer for this was, it captured that whole thing. There was several very classic POV shots of things going on that gave you the sense that someone was watching. For the most part, it carried that through. And let's get into this. The first thing that I want to say is the trailer and the poster has 11 festival awards, and I'm going to name those off later. So right away, when this started up, I was a little bit nervous and skeptical because you know how I feel about festival awards, and that's going to prompt some conversation here at the end. So getting into this bad boy, we open on a wide shot of a narrow road at night, and a car passes through the screen. And right away, I'm thinking, well, this is good lighting. Okay, the background city lights in the distance are solid but muted. The headlights don't burn the screen as they pass, and that's not an easy thing to do. Outline of the car is good. I mean, everything so far for the first 30 seconds, this looks like whoever is behind the wheel of this really has a grip on how to shoot a film. All right, so we cut to them now on the side of the road. It's a man and a woman. The man is changing the flat. The woman is a little pissed off and seems to be accusing him for the tire going flat. A few words are exchanged, and then they're kissing. So you think right away, okay, this must be that kind of relationship. Fair enough. It's one of those little biting sarcasm type things. Not a problem. They're back on the road, and she's sleeping as he's driving. He tries to find music, hits the radio, and on comes some blaring punk type music. Just really disjointed. It, of course, wakes her up. And then he says, someone forgot to fill up. I guess the blame game's going around. So she says they'll find a place. There's always something open late somewhere. Then she says, remember why we're doing this? For a bit of privacy. So it sounds like we're going to learn something more before too long. They find a petrol station. Outside sign and pump lights are on, so they pull up. It's looking pretty empty. So he pushes her to get out and fill up the tank. And again, it's really good lighting here. Everything is very clear and crisp. Nothing is glaring the screen, and there's no burnout. So he gets out to use the bathroom while she's filling up. And he goes inside, and there is, in fact, someone inside the gas station. It's a clerk eating some noodles. Seems a little odd. Guy doesn't seem to be much of a talker. The driver goes to use the can. There's no lights in the bathroom, just what is coming in through the window, which for some reason is flashing. That's a little weird. Then the next thing we see are feet on the floor coming towards the stall. So we're doing a POV from the stall, and it looks like whoever it is standing on their toes, and the guy just sits there. That was creepy. Then the woman goes into this gas station. She opens the door, rings the bell, and all of a sudden the feet vanish. And then we have the clerk running back to the desk, and he's all freaked out. Just real quick, he's like, "Oh, I'm closing up." The woman pays for the gas, but it looks like she left her wallet on the counter. So in the car, she realizes she left it there. The guy goes in to get it, and she's just sitting there. Seems to be taking a while for him to go get this wallet. And just before he comes out, behind the woman, so we're looking at the woman through the windshield, behind her, we see a figure, and it looks like a woman to me, running behind the car to the back of the gas station. So then he comes out, gets in, and then they drive off. Now we're on the road, and she's shaking, thinks she needs a cigarette. I found that a bit weird. She says she smoked the last one earlier, yet they were just at a gas station, and she didn't pick any up. So she's digging around, and she finds a stray pack of the car with a single cigarette in it. But now her lighter's gone. Not sure what the dilemma is, but anyway, they end up driving, and then there's a car behind them, or a motorcycle. It's a single light. She starts to panic and says she thinks it's the creep from the gas station. So they keep driving, and it does seem like a car with the headlight out when they do the shots, because it's a little bit off center. And it does look a bit like they do a passing shot of the first car and then the second car. It does look like the car that was parked outside of the gas station along the side, which is probably the clerk's car. So she might be, head on at this point. Like, all right, let's do this. So they are going, and they're using a GPS, and he waits till the last minute to make his turn, and the second car passes. Okay, so we'll take that for what it is. So now they're pulling up to what's a pretty nice looking country house. She runs off to use the toilet right away. He goes out to the car, and he's looking for a flashlight that was supposed to be in there. Opens the front. It's a VW Bug, an older one, which is kind of cool. So he opens up the front trunk and grabs their luggage and goes inside. So as he goes in, he puts the bags down. He's calling to her, and we learn Becca is her name, and there's no answer. Now, the music starts winding up, and he's looking, the music's winding up more, and there she is. All is well. And I couldn't help but think, all right, horror plot step one complete, the false scare tension. I don't think we would have missed that if it hadn't been there. So now she's getting ready to take a shower, and he's out back chopping wood. Apparently, there's no electric or gas heat. So we cut to the fireplace. The fire is lit. Logs are on fire. And then, bam, suddenly, he's in the bathtub with Becca. And they're talking, and the dialogue makes it sound like they're on a finding meaning trip, meaning where they need to sort out their relationship. They need to get a deeper connection, really try and determine the course of their relationship. It's just a guess, but it certainly led that way. Now, another cut, and all of a sudden they're in the bed having sex. And this was an interesting shot. This was pretty good. So we have a wide shot. The bedroom door is open. So on the left side, we see the bedroom door. And then over to the right, we can see the railing for the stairs going down. And from downstairs, we see light flickering from the fireplace. And, as they're doing their thing, all of a sudden, the light dims and then comes back like with someone passed in front of the light source. So then we cut to after, and she's sitting by the window having a cigarette, and he's downstairs in the kitchen cooking. His phone rings, but he ignores it. And then we cut to the outside of the house. So we have a POV looking at him through the kitchen window. The phone rings again. He answers it, but says it's the wrong number. And then we cut again to them sitting at a table. And there's something about the scene that I noticed. The color seemed all washed out. It wasn't great. The skin tones were really flat. There wasn't a lot of texture. When you look at film or a picture, you look for those slight variations in skin tone and everything to give definition, and the contours really wasn't there. It's like everything was a bleached beige. And thought maybe, okay, this is just the sort of scene. Unfortunately, this permeates the whole film. There is, while the night shots outside were really good, and even the gas station shots, what we get from this point on is a lot of this really beigey, bleachy, like filter, kind of detracts. It really just mutes the whole thing. For me, it kind of just took me out of what was going on a little bit in terms of that whole, you think about movies like Halloween, what made that creepy is that everything was put together so that you could kind of feel the ambiance, like you were in that room and kind of put yourself in those shoes. This was more of a, now I'm on the outside looking in kind of thing. Anyway, so we're back inside, and now they're asleep on the couch. Becca gets up to use the bathroom. The door's open, and we're watching her as if from someone else's point of view. And then she's in the kitchen. And then we have another shot in through the window from the outside. In the hallway behind her, a woman appears, slowly lumbering through the frame. And Becca doesn't notice. So she goes back to get Michael. Now we learned his name. And suddenly notices her shoes are missing. It's kind of strange. So she calls to him, insists that they find them now, but he convinces her to wait until tomorrow. Back to the previous bedroom setup shot. So now they're standing by the bed, kissing furiously. So she bites on his lip, and it hurts. He's not a fan. At least it seems that way. Next thing is he's telling her to get on the bed on all fours, and then he starts to whip her on the behind with his belt. So, little country cottage ass whipping. Why not? And then she's getting tied up, wrists and ankles, and she's all for it. It's not a forced thing. Again, this is This is their jam. So things are looking like they're starting to really kick off. And then all of a sudden she starts to panic. She hears something. They stop for a minute, and turns out to be the television. They never turn the TV on. So he gets up, gets dressed to go see what's going, leaving her hands and feet tied. And then putting on his pants, he falls. And you hear a thud. And she starts calling out to him. He's knocked himself out on the floor. It took me a second to analyze this moment. So he's unconscious. She's on the bed, hogtied, and convinced something creepy is going on. She keeps calling to him, and then she hears someone in the house. So right after that, he comes to. She's freaking out, telling him someone's in the house. He finally unties her, and she wants to leave. And he's just kind of dismissing her. So he's going to go check on things. And we hear some silence. We hear some shuffling around. And then we hear an, ah! So it turns out he stubbed his toe. So that's another false scare moment that probably could have been edited out or just left out. I'm not really one for that kind of thing. But hey, there it was. So he sees that the TV remote is on the floor, figures that, the remote fell on the floor, switched on the TV. So he pops it off. And then something outside catches his eye. So he grabs a lamp and he's looking out the window, and he ends up seeing what looks like a bloody handprint on the outside of the window. And he tries to get a little bit closer, and he pulls the cord out of the wall for the lamp, so everything goes dark. And he just kind of, she's like, what's going on? Nothing. And, I mean, it's okay. He grabs a hammer and then he steps outside. So he goes outside. Now, this is where it wasn't actually, the lighting was probably the worst in this whole film. He's doing something with the car, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out what in the fuck it was he was doing. Because he's I don't know if he's trying to like push the fucking car. He's making grunting sounds, fucking with the door, it looks like. I don't know. So that little bit was lost on me. Again, probably could have been left out because it really didn't add to the suspense. Anything like that. So anyway, he goes back into the house, convinces Becca that there was nothing there, and she goes to sleep. So he sits on the bed, on the edge of it, like he's waiting. He's got this hammer in his hand. So then we cut to later. They're both asleep in the bed. So he's kind of tossing and turning a bit, and he wakes up. We see that it's 10 past 2 in the morning. He gets up, gets dressed, grabs his hammer, and heads to the toilet. We have another wide shot. So we see him off on the left side pissing into the toilet. And then on the right side, the bathroom door starts to close behind him very slowly. Then we cut to Becca in the bed. And we sense someone getting into bed with her. You can see, so it's a shot of her laying, facing the camera, laying in bed. And you can see the movement behind her. And then, her body moves a little bit like someone's getting into bed. And she wakes up, complains that he left the tap running. Doesn't get an answer. She's like, all right, fine, I'll go turn it off. Gets out of bed, goes into the bathroom, and whammo, there's Michael in the tub. He's been stabbed in the heart. So she panics a little bit. And then, like in a rare moment of clarity in these kind of horror thriller films, she has this like, oh, she grabs the knife, tries to pull it out, but it won't budge. It's in there. So she looks back to the bedroom down the hall. She's terrified. Looks like there's someone in the bed. The comforter's all bunched up. So she's looking around the bathroom and finds a small pair of scissors, a pair of cuticle scissors. Okay. Stay with me on this. Personally, I would have worked on that big ass knife by sticking both feet on that dead body and pulling for everything. I can't imagine a situation where a pair of cuticle scissors would be of any benefit to me, especially in a house loaded with weapons. Because that's my first thought is, well, if the knife stuck in his fucking chest, whoever did this wasn't able to get it out or just left it there, either way. But it's a house. It has a kitchen. It has many other things, knives and who knows what. They might have something else. These little 1.5 inch long scissors really aren't going to do anybody any good. But hey, she has her scissors. So she gets to the bedroom and attacks the comforter. There's nothing there. Then she slinks downstairs slowly. Then she's slowly creeping through the house. Now, we know that there's light in the house because when they were in the kitchen, when Michael was cooking in the kitchen, the kitchen lights were on. So, for some reason they've opted not to use lights here and there. But the question I always get when I see shit like this is, why don't people turn the fucking lights on when they walk through a creepy ass dark house in which someone has just been killed and they're convinced someone is still in the house? I don't know. It's a little pet peeve of mine. The whole suspension of disbelief has to be tied, it has to be anchored to a little bit of reality. Now I can understand if this was a country cottage and there was no electricity, hence him chopping the wood. Fine. But there is electricity, so turn the fucking lights on, especially if you're walking around with a pair of cuticle scissors and there's a murderer in the house. Anyway, she doesn't turn the lights on. So what she does do is she decides to slip into a broom closet to hide. So she opens it, she starts backing in, closing the door. And just as we close in on her face, we hear someone whisper, "Guess who?" And then hands come from behind and cover Becca's eyes. Cold cut to a car on a dark road. It's another couple. They're Swedish. It's apparently the Swedish guy's birthday. They chit chat. They're speaking in Swedish. So as they're talking, they almost strike a car parked on the side of the road. They pull over. It's not the first couple's car. The doors are open. No one's there. They stop, look, and then move on. So they get a bit further down the road, still, speaking in Swedish. And they see a couple walking on the side of the road. So they pull over. And it's the first couple. What? Aha. So here's the moment. So the Swedish couple are driving a VW Bug. The VW Bug that the first couple was driving when they went to the house before Michael got killed, blah, 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 blah. So this is a flashback. And the Swedish woman mentions that gas will be needed soon. So that's where we come back to, hey, someone forgot to fill up on gas. And the Swedish man doesn't speak English. So the Swedish woman speaks English and Swedish. And then there's an awkward conversation between her and the first couple, and Becca and Michael. And it's really weird because straight off, in less than 5 minutes, Michael and Becca are we've gone from them being this couple being tormented to now they're just this loathsome and unlikable fucking pair of human beings. Swedish girl's getting creeped out and she wants to drop them off, but it's pretty clear to her that picking up the couple was a terrible mistake because Michael and Becca want to steal the car. So they make her pull over. They pull them out to the side of the road, put them on their knees, and Michael wants to beat them with a hammer. So he takes the hammer and basically knocks a hole in the Swedish guy's skull. Crunch. You get it. You see the hole in the brain matter. So Becca wants to do in the woman. So she hits her with the hammer. Now, this is a pretty obvious thing because there's no hole. She didn't punch a hole in her head. It's just a thud. There's no fountain of blood and everything. So it really just looks like she just put her out, right? And then they pull the bodies off to the side of the road. Michael and Becca take off. So as they're getting in the car, the Swedish woman wakes up. The guy's dead. There's no mistaking with that hole in his skull. I'm not surprised that the Swedish woman woke up. We learn that her name is Alva, and she stays there until the car leaves. Becca is going through her purse and finds out her name. That's how we learn it. And then we see that Becca is wearing Alva's boots. So those are the shoes that went missing. Michael and Becca are sitting, reminiscing about her first kill. For two people who want to be on the move and not found, it's taking them for fucking ever to get a move on. And they finally get rolling. And then we cut to Alva running through the woods. And then all of a sudden we see her pick up a branch or a piece of wood that's wrapped in barbed wire. And she throws it into the road. And bam, gonna have some coffee. Along comes the VW, hits it, and now we know how the tire went flat. And then we see Alva running through the woods again. This is where it gets hard. There's a repeat of earlier scenes, same thing we just fucking saw, only they intercut now with Alva running through the woods. A POV of her watching them pull into the gas station. And then we go into the gas station, and this is really the only bit of information that we're given. The rest of this is really just, frankly, a waste of time. Going back and seeing all these scenes again. The new information we get is that the clerk is watching TV. So we see it from behind the counter, and on the TV is Becca and Michael, and they're on the news as most wanted. So then when Michael walks in from the clerk's point of view, clerk's, now we see why he's acting all goofy and, look like he just shit his pants, because he probably did. He carefully turns off the television, which is a smart move. He just keeps watching. Michael asks to use the bathroom. And then he goes in there, and then the clerk pulls out a small, looks like an 8-inch crowbar as Michael is in the toilet. So then we have the repeat of the earlier scene with Becca sitting in the car, only from Alva's point of view. She's in the woods watching. So the clerk, now that she goes in and pays, we see that scene again. Becca goes in and pays, and then leaves her wallet. So then all of a sudden the clerk is going through the wallet. And they take off. And that kind of explains why Michael was in there so long, because Alva, when the car takes off, goes in. Of course, the clerk is laying on the floor dead. So Michael was taking the time to kill him. So Alva grabs some keys, jumps in the clerk's car, and starts to follow them. So she's the car that's behind him. And quite frankly, it was at this point, I mean, this is halfway through. This is like 30 minutes, right? I'm wondering why continue with the film. I'm not really a fan of these kinds of movies where the ending of the movie plays first and then we have the rest of the second half backtracing over shit. There's so few instances where that works. This is not it. A horror film, I'll stand my ground on this one. It doesn't belong. There's no room for this kind of thing. This isn't what it's about, because we already know the fucking end, right? So quite literally, it's the same movie. And by this time, there's 15 minutes left of the movie, because this isn't a long movie. It's I think it's an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. I've never viewed this kind of thing as clever. So, I just didn't know why I should keep watching, but watch I did, because this is what we do. Gotta do the episode on it. This is the poison that we picked, and I just gotta down it. All right. So really, it's just more repeats of everything I just described to you, only, in your head, just envision a cut of Alva here and there, looking. It was all completely unnecessary because, like I said, none of it gave us any other information. It didn't heighten anything. The only new information that we got was why the clerk, looked like some sort of Gomer sitting there at the gas station. Well, it's because he just, he's seen a most wanted guy walk in. That was it. All this other stuff, there's nothing new. Not one tiny iota of new information is given. So I just really, at this point, I'm thinking, the writer or director did they think that the audience was that fucking stupid that they couldn't put it all together at this point? I mean, it's basically a 30-minute film. They could have had the whole thing. So everything up to where Becca goes into the broom closet. All right. That next scene where the Swedish couple pick up Michael and Becca, it's fucking done. There's no surprises. There's no twists. There's nothing. I was so bored at this point. It's a 30-minute movie, and then they just cut and remixed it for another 30 minutes and then added some other stuff, different angles. As you can tell, I'm not real happy. I'm not blasting the whole thing because I do have some good things to say about it at the end. We're almost there. Thank God. So finally we get to the point to this and that and that and this. And then we get to the point where we're back to the fucking broom closet. And of course, it's the face off between Becca and Alva. And I looked, and there's only 3 minutes of the movie left. So I'm like, oh, this should be fucking great. So they wrestle around like, some, I don't even know, the worst struggling I've seen on between two people on film. And Alva has the cuticle scissors, and she's stabbing Becca with them like a couple of dozen times. And all of a sudden, Becca stops moving on the floor. Alva, of course, gets up and walks away for no fucking reason, comes back for no fucking reason. Becca's gone. She's not on the floor anymore. Oh, And then Becca shows up and slams Alva in the head. And here's the thing. There's a house full of fucking knives, like I said before. Why are they both intent on using these little fucking cuticle scissors to kill one another? And so then we have the last scene is Alva just stabbing away. She got Becca back on the floor. And then we fade to black with big band music, and that's it. Credits roll. So that is probably the shortest. Well, I know it is the shortest explanation of a film, running it through. And for good reason. There just wasn't, like I said, the whole second half of this film, there's nothing worth taking notes on. It's just the same movie with cut in. So imagine, they used to do this. They would take, well, actually, let's use one of my favorites, Star Wars. So any of you fortunate enough to have seen the original Star Wars from 1977, will understand this. There's a lot of shit that George Lucas did to it where he just threw shit in. And it didn't necessarily have to be there. Additional scenes like in the cantina. He amped up Mos Eisley and did all this stuff. But basically it's the same fucking movie, right? With just different shit here and there. Well, this is the same movie at the back half than it is at the front. Just little, like I said, just shots of Alva. I fucking knew. I don't need to see her. Quit showing her. That's not building anything up. It was just bad. That was a bad decision. Which brings us to some things. So, first of all, to be fair, the cinematography in this wasn't bad. That whole, the color thing though, I don't know who to blame for that. Is it the director? Did they have an editor who did that, or, someone doing the color specifically? If it was a creative choice, it was a bad choice because it just looks poorly. And it really stands out. The bad color choice really stands out because, like I said, the framing of this stuff was pretty good. The shot of them in the bedroom and getting that railing and the light from the downstairs up against the wall in the stairway, that was really well done. And it was really oddly well lit and everything, in that you could see everything that was happening. And it really did, the first half of this did leave a sense of, who is it going to be and what's it all about and when's it going to go down? Right. That's what a horror is supposed to do. And this is a horror thriller that it's been billed as. So, part of the thrilling thing is, building up the tension. Let's talk about lesson number 1 about building tension. I don't care what anybody says. Forget the fucking false scares. Thriller or straight horror, whatever. Forget the false scares. They're fucking done. They were done in the 80s. All right. Friday the 13th, that whole franchise perfected it. Nightmare on Elm Street, they followed suit. They perfected it as well. And then it got old and boring. And just anytime, by the time we get to Jason 10, right? Friday the 13th, it's just stupid. It happens. You're like, oh, fuck. It's almost an insult that directors still think this works and that it has any value. It really, really doesn't. It's a waste of time. Don't do it. If you want to be original, be original. Come up with another way to introduce the tension, the suspense, what's going on. Like, let's go back to when they first get to the house, Michael walks in after Becca ran off to use the bathroom. That was so unnecessary and so utterly fucking stupid. How many times does this happen? Again, this is suspension of disbelief. So you have to root in some sort of realism. How many times, based on, the movies, how many times do directors think in an any day situation, someone's going to walk in after someone, 5 seconds behind someone, call their name and not get an answer, and then start to look concerned and what's going on? And all of a sudden, ping, oh, here I am. Just don't do it. I really can't stress that enough. Find a different way to build tension. I don't know, maybe it's a silly thing to say, but how about building tension vertically? Meaning bring the situations, more interesting things, more weird sounds, more, kind of off in the shadow things. Give you the sense that, I don't mean I hear a noise and a cat jumps out bullshit, because that's the same thing, false scare. But Becca was really, her character was nailing it with I hear something, I think someone's here, and he's, oh, there's nobody here, blah, 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 blah. Well, when it keeps happening, you get past the point of, well, is she just fucking paranoid? No, because as an audience member, you hear it too. So if he can't find the source, or he finds a logical reason for it that isn't a cat jumping out or some other stupid shit, it kind of builds up like, okay, but we know someone's fucking with them, right? Especially when we get to the point where we saw the woman figure behind Becca. We were looking at her from the outside. Done and done. All right. Any more false scares after this is just stupid. Build it up. More sounds. Someone's in the house. He can't find her. She's insistent. It's that whole, I know somebody's out to fucking get me, and nobody believes that person. That builds up really well when it's done right. Coffee. But let's talk about the film festivals. I want to get this off my chest. So I was a little concerned, like I said at the beginning, that they have all these awards. And I was kind of proven right. My fear of constant awards decorations for indie films. So I took the time to write these all down. So let's start with British Horror Film Festival 2016. This film won Best Feature Film, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Actress, Best Actor, and Best Supporting Actress. Now, I'm not going to begrudge the actress, actor, and supporting actress awards because they did a good job. Okay, these actors, they nailed it. It wasn't cheesy, it wasn't silly, and it wasn't strained. So I was impressed with that, and I thought, okay, you know what, that's fair. However, what really bugged me was the Best Feature Film Award. Again, this just makes me think, what was the bucket of shit that was submitted to this film festival in 2016 that this beat all of it? How bad were these fucking movies that this was the best of the bunch? Because again, it's not original. It didn't work. It was boring as shit. You can count the number of positive reviews. I spent 2 hours researching stuff, looking for the budget. I ended up reading a lot of reviews, ended up on a lot of French websites, and you can count the number of positive reviews directly correlate to the number of people who starred in the film. Otherwise, this thing has been beset with, pretty much what I've been saying. It's a waste of time. It's a shame. As a story goes, I don't know how this won Best Feature. I mean, how badly written were these other movies? I don't know. And I know Jamie Patterson has a pretty long list of shit, but I don't know. I peeked at a couple of other things that he has that are out there. I gotta say, I don't see it. So, yeah, I don't know. He's not as great as he's been billed. And as a director, I think two things. I'm going to give him full credit for knowing how to use the camera. That I think you can't touch that. That inarguably was well done. However, as the director, he's also guiding us through the story, and he absolutely failed at that. Absolutely failed at that. And again, it's with the notion of taking, well, let's open the present in the first 5 minutes and then have the rest of the surprise party build up to the opening present moment. What the fuck? All right. For a straight thriller that's not like a horror, and a suspense, those things can work. There are many examples out there where they do kind of do that, where you kind of come in at the end and then you follow through. Interestingly enough, yeah. But anyway, we're going to move on. Let's talk about these goddamn festivals. All right. So after the British Horror Film Festival, we have Shriekfest Film Festival 2017, where it was an official selection. So that's one of the badges. Freak Show Horror Film Festival 2017, official selection. And then we have Unrestricted View Horror Film Festival 2017. And this was the festival director's choice. So again, people might be thinking, well, hey man, don't be talking about, festival directors and stuff. You're going to burn your bridges. Fuck them. I don't care. Because if a film director saw this, or a festival director saw this and thought, oh, this is the one of two things. One, they really don't fucking know film, which I really do question a lot of these festivals and the people involved. A lot of them, I know locally, there are many people involved in these ventures who don't know the first fucking thing about film or movies or anything. All right. So the fact is the fact. But bringing it back, what was the pile of shit that showed up at that festival that he thought, oh, this is my choice, right? Because at the same Unrestricted View Horror Film Festival 2017, it won the Best Director Award. Maybe. With the Best Director, like I said, he technically you could see what he was doing, but from a storytelling standpoint, he didn't. And like I said, peeking at some of the other things out there, and you can look them up. Jamie Patterson, UK director. I'm not going to plug the other stuff because I don't want to, because I didn't think it was all that great. Bottoming out the list, Fantasporto 2018 was an official selection. So that was the 11th badge on this thing. I don't know. The thing about festivals is it's the way for the indie filmmaker to get their shit seen. I get that. And, in this business, any kind of accolade you can get, I mean, that puts you one up on someone who doesn't have any, right? So when you finally get to Amazon or Vimeo or Hulu or wherever your shit's getting planted, the hope is, well, someone's going to see my poster with all these badges on it and choose this over the one that doesn't have any. That way I get the $7 that Amazon pays me for someone streaming this kind of thing, or the was it $1.80 that you get from the rental, depending on what the rental cost is. Anyway, I get that part, but really starts to call into question, what do these festivals really do? It's almost like the Oscars. We have mentioned a few times that, the Oscars, you can go back 30, 40 years, and very few of the Oscar winning films for Best Picture are on our favorites list. And it's not because we have such a crazy out there, wild, far out fucking view on films. I mean, we like all kinds of shit, I would take, I don't even know. It's just, it's just frustrating that, compare these festivals to the Oscars. It's really, I think, a popularity contest. I don't know who the panels are. I just know that a lot of people aren't thoroughly vested in the industry, be it indie or mainstream, that I don't think they're really qualified to render the judgments that they do. And anytime you have something that says, audience award or audience pick, I don't know. Can you trust an audience? I mean, who's the audience? What's the audience there? Are these a bunch of people who are horror fans? Well, if they're the majority of the people that are there, clearly a horror film is going to win. And who's to say that it shouldn't win, right? But say there is a better film that's not a horror, and it's not going to get that kind of vote because people are like, nah, it's not my bag. It's not my bag. 80% of the people are horror fans, and of the 4 horror films, this is the one that they want, number 2. And movies 5, 6, and 7, 2 comedies and a romance, nobody gives a shit. So they kind of got screwed. Now, when a horror festival is, horror film festival, clearly they're all horror films. I don't know. It depends. Like, we love slashers. I'll pick a good slasher flick over a suspense horror any day. Just because that's why I go to horror. And I tell you what, I will be more interested in a Japanese horror film than most other mainstream or indie films, simply because they're ridiculous and they know it. The copious amounts of blood, the spraying of blood through high pressure hoses, it's just so fucking ridiculous. But that's what I like to sit and see. I like to see the ridiculousness and just, yeah, that's crazy. So am I a good candidate to vote for different films? Probably not. I have my preferences. Like this one, I would have shit all over this one at a festival if I was on a panel, because I hate this kind of movie. I hate the end first, beginning second. I hate it. So I would have immediately voted this out. In my head, justifiably so. But hey, that's fine. Now, let's go back to the color bit. Like I said, I don't know who to put the finger on the blame button for that, because it seems so weird that the most technically challenging elements of this film, were really well lit. Like I said, the whole thing with the car driving on the road, the lights in the distance, pulling up to the gas station, that was like fucking classic 70s, 80s setup. It's this, out in the middle of nowhere gas station. You got a light above the door. You got the light at the pumps. It's casting just a halo over from the pumps to the door. You can just see the outline of the building. There's a faint light coming from the back. It gives you, it's well lit enough so that you can see every bit of movement in that space. But then as you get a little bit further out, the periphery gives you that sense of isolation, that this is in the middle of nowhere. There is nowhere to go. This is sort of like that Attack of the Tatty Bogle thing, where in the basement scene, we always have that scene in movies where someone's pleading with them, no, please don't kill me. No, didn't get that far. No, wait. Nope. It's just gonna, that's the way it is. There's no way out of it. So it did give that wonderful feeling. And honestly, when that scene came up in the trailer, that was the first thing that we saw. And I was like, yeah, I'm digging this. This looks good. And it looked good in the movie. Everything else though was just, like I said, it was that kind of like a bleach filter and a beige filter, muting out the colors, kind of taking the humanity out of the characters. Really, it just, I don't, how you could do one and then the other. I don't know. Maybe it was, like I said, maybe it was a creative choice. I think it was not a good one for that. But let's talk about the acting. Now, I already said that they won a Best Actor, Actress, and Supporting Actress. And I think that was well deserved in whatever festival, the British Horror Film Festival. If they had been nominated in any others, they should have been nominated, but clearly they didn't win because it didn't show up on the lists. But the performances were solid. And I like the fact that the actor playing Michael, when you see him in the beginning, like I said, they have this kind of back and forth, snippy kind of relationship. And, you don't think too much of it. It's just, like I said, you look at it like, oh, so it's one of those relationships, and that's fine. But his snarkiness and just his general attitude, up until he gets killed, is shown in the second part where they get picked, he and Becca get picked up in the car by the Swedish couple. There's a little bit of a change in that they're made to be more menacing, both he and Becca, which didn't really quite fit, but the actor carried through enough of what we saw previously that you could kind of sense there was a sameness to it. And it was kind of a welcoming thing that, okay, we add the element that he's a killer and a criminal and on the run. And it's really kind of like a California thing. So we got the weird murdering couple out doing whatever. We don't know what else they've done. We don't really get a sense of it, except at one point they do talk. They're kind of just out of the blue. Becca reminisces about her first kill, and with him, about a necklace. Anyway, Michael's performance was solid, and you kind of get that. Okay, he's that way because he's possibly a sociopath, psychopath. Not sure which, but his personality was consistent, even though the angle was a little bit different from the first half and the second half. The actress playing Becca, solid. The rapport between the two of them was really good. And this comes not from writing, because you can write the best shit in the planet and you can get the best actors and actresses on the planet. I just like saying actors. Enough with the actress. They're all actors. They all act. Without the chemistry between the actual actors, you're not going to get chemistry between the characters. Now, I know the stories are replete with people who hated each other on set and, they're professional. They can do this and that and that and this. And that's fine. There are convincing performances, to be sure. But here's the thing. The essence of a truly believable performance comes from two actors who connect at a level outside of the character and bring that in. And it's a very obvious thing when it happens. And it's not saying that people can't pull it off, because like I just said, they do. And there's a lot of examples of that having happened. But it was a really good rapport. The timing was really good. So they knew each other. They knew the characters. They knew how they were going to play the characters. And they knew how to do the back and forth and the snippiness and the snarkiness. And it worked. It was really good. The clerk, well, kudos to him. He didn't have much to work with, I don't think. He was basically just a meat bag in waiting till they killed him. And I think the supporting actress, it didn't say who it was, and I didn't care to look, was probably the one who played Alva, the Swedish woman who spoke English and Swedish. I don't know. I wasn't... if there was a weak link, I think it would have to be her, because the Swedish guy, he just kind of sits after the little chit chat in the beginning before they pick up Michael and Becca. He's just speaking Swedish and they're talking about his birthday and, flirting a little bit. That's it. That's all he has. The rest of it, he's forced to sit in the back smiling because everyone's speaking English and he's supposed to act like he doesn't understand them. And then they kill him. So, not a lot of chance for him to shine. Very minor part. But Alva, she survives and, we see her hunting down. But I tell you what, that there's that transition when we have our hero or heroine reach that moment where they're going to get payback or do something. That was missing. That was, it made her unbelievable. The actress did a good job portraying the part. So, full hat tip to that. But there was just, you watch this thing and you're thinking, okay, so if this were really anybody, even a psychopath, you're left on the road, side of the road, left for dead. And, your significant other is literally dead. Someone takes off in a car and your first instinct is to sprint through the fucking forest. I don't know. I didn't, there was no map of the area. So I don't know how twisty, windy, switchbacky these roads were, but she's like the bionic fucking woman to reach a gas station at the same time or just before to watch them pull in. Someone in a car, that kind of took it away from me a little bit. And then she's just going to go kill him. I don't know. We didn't know, there was not enough about her as a character to bring me into this. I couldn't legitimize what was going on. I would have been happier if it had been the gas station clerk haunting them, just for the sense that, just like Attack of the Taddy Bogle, just like so many, slashers, right? It's to the point where, Friday the 13th, number one, it was his mom. Number two, it was him. Number three, he gets his iconic mask and he's just killing. And it no longer, and then it goes beyond the camp. It's not even the fucking camp anymore, right? He's just killing left, killing right. He's in Manhattan, really don't give a shit anymore about his backstory. Even though we had it, I don't think we necessarily needed it. Halloween, we had a little, Michael Myers was a disturbed kid. He killed his sister. We get that. Why? Don't care. Don't know. We were better off not knowing whether or not he was abused, whether or not he was adopted, whether or not he was some sort of, fucking genetic experiment in some sort of fucking lab and the petri dish got out and all of a sudden there's baby Michael. I don't know. Anyway, it's easier to just accept that, okay, we have a a gas station clerk. He's a weird fucker. He's working late at night, and he takes a fancy to these people. He just wants to kill them because he's a killer. Don't know how many times he's done it. Don't give a shit. He's there solely to fuck with them and give us, the audience, a little bit of a thrill ride. That's all that we need to know. That would have worked. I would have had no issue with that. I still would have had issue with the way the film was put together, but it would have made it a little bit more believable having him be the one to do all this. Having Alva be the one, again, I don't see the transition. Is the motivator, well, they killed her boyfriend and now she wants them dead. I don't know, right? When you introduce a character to a certain degree, you have to kind of follow through with it. And there was no follow through. Don't know enough about her now. I know too much about her to let it go as her being just some sort of, random murderer. But I don't know enough about her to buy into it. So that's kind of where that happened. But either way, the actress did do a really good job. So she did deserve that Best Supporting Actress. I will say that. One thing that didn't show up on these festival lists that when I was digging, I actually somehow found my way to the composer for this. The music composed for this film was nominated in a couple of festivals, never won though. So that's kind of a bit of a bummer. But it is a reminder that the scoring for this was pretty good. We did not, again, we didn't get the Casio and, the cheap on the fly shit like I would do. Cause I play the Boron, how can I score a film with a fucking drum? You really can't. So I would have to get somebody who could play an instrument to do it, or I could break out all my electronic shit and, throw stuff together. And, to be honest, the theme for this, theme music for this podcast, I cobbled together a bunch of shit, looped it and pasted and, layered it. And I didn't do any of it. I just, mixed and matched and fucked with shit till it sounded the way I wanted it to. That's not playing music. I don't count that as scoring. The guy who scored this did a really good job. The music was really good. If it weren't for the fact that this movie was what it was, the way it was, I would have really enjoyed it. Even if it played through where they killed the couple, meet the goofy guy, and then the rest of the movie is them being fucking tormented, and then, we see it's Alva. There's no reveal otherwise, right? We see that Alva survived. I'd still have a question about, is that the best choice? But I would have, enjoyed it a lot more because put together the framing of the shots, the cinematography, I'll say for 80%, 75% of it is really good. The color mixing choices notwithstanding, you add that to the music, the solid performances, it could have been really good. There's a lot of talent at work here. And I feel that Mr. Patterson kind of just let everybody down, including the audience, by just absolutely not latching on to these strengths that were in this film. Kind of a shame. I was expecting more. And, like I said, halfway through a movie when you've revealed everything, it's just boring. It's just boring after that. All right, we fucking know. We've already seen all this. We've seen it and we're seeing it again. Oh, there's Alva. Yeah, I would never have figured out that, she would have been watching them. Plus we saw the woman in the distance running in the background. I know how to put two and two together, Technically, though, hat tips to a few things. I'm not going to say for the directing. I'll say a half a hat tip for the composition. That was done pretty well. A lot of it was good, and there was no shaky cam, so it's not like we were watching a documentary on murderers. stalking people in houses and shit. The cinematography, some kudos for those night shots, because they really were fucking well done. And that is just the hardest fucking thing in the world, is to get that lighting right. When you're dealing with light and then complete blackness, anyone who does not work with the camera, anyone who hasn't worked on trying to set up a shot for a film, or who doesn't know a DP or something, you just don't know how hard that is. It's as hard as it gets. That's complete opposites, and to make them balance out so they look pleasing on the screen and to the eye, huge task. So they did that. But I'm, heavy rake against the weird fucking color scheme. I don't know. It almost felt like I was watching it in sepia mode. I guess that would be the way to explain it. It was that kind of washed out feel, which didn't fit for that. So all in all, if this is your kind of movie, have a look at it. See the things that I've been talking about. If it's not your kind of film, watch it anyway, just for the things I talked about. Look at those beautiful shots at night and the lighting balance. But I think that's going to bring things to an end. Kind of a short episode because I don't have anybody to talk to. I'm in here all by my lonesome, drinking my coffee, which I'm going to take another sip here. And then I'm going to go ahead and repeat the whole subscribe to the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that review button. Hit that rating button. Share. Head to our website, www.lordsofmisrulproductions.com. Everything's on there. All the email links. Shoot us an email if you have some suggestions on a film that we haven't hit yet. And there's tens of thousands, so we're not ever going to need help with material. But if you know of something that you think would really give some good examples of lessons and just a good project, go ahead and shoot us an email. Let us know. If you've done a project, let us know. We want to talk to you if you're the writer, director, producer, musician, whatever it is, let us know. We would love to hear from you. We would love to watch it. The only thing is, it's got to be somewhere we can see it. We don't care if we have to rent it. That's fine. But we have to be able to see it. Even if it's on YouTube, that's fine. If it's for rent on Amazon or wherever else, that's fine. We'll rent it, but not gonna point too many fingers. But a couple inquiries like, hey, I got this project. It's really great. I could send you a DVD. No, that's where we kind of draw it. Not going to do that. So other than that, if you have something, if you're an actor and you've done any work in indie or B movies, reach out to us. We'd like to hear from you, get you on the air, as a guest. And let's talk about what this fucking nightmare business is all about. We've said it before. Creatives, we firmly believe we're all mental defectives. We're looking to get the non-standard job. We're looking to live in question of a paycheck. And there's so little kudos doled out. The reward is doing the work. That's why we do it. So, let's chat about that. Also, if you're a listener and you want to become a hardcore B-sider, head to our Patreon page. Link is on our website at Lords of Misrule Productions. You can't search us on Patreon because we are an explicit podcast. So for some reason, explicit patron projects don't fucking show up in search, which I think is kind of half-assed fucking stupid, but whatever. So it's patreon.com/bravo for the B-side, all one word if you have to go type it in. Otherwise, like I said, we have a link on our page. We also have links to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check those out, see what we're up to. Not a chatty kind of social media accounts. Basically, I'm not going to lie, I really don't have time. It's enough to schedule the tweets announcing the episode. I try to comment here and there, or someone's, messages or something. I try to, get back, but I don't pontificate all day long through social media just to get it out there, because some have to do the day job thing. So no time for that. And, but you can still reach out to us through there. If you do reach out, we'll reach back, guarantee it. Yeah, those are all the places you can find us. All right. Okay, B-siders, this is Jim, and I hope you are enjoying your B movies, your indie films. Until next time, wish you all well, and talk to you soon. Bye.